More details on the backstage altercation between CM Punk and Jack Perry at AEW All In at London's Wembley Stadium. We've got Jack Perry's version of events and independent eyewitnesses' version of events. Plus, CM Punk reportedly lunged at AEW President Tony Khan and yelled, "I quit," before being calmed down by Samoa Joe. Details on that. Plus, we've also got the estimated buy rate for AEW All In last weekend. Bray Wyatt, just how close was he to joining AEW back in 2021? Details on that. Plus, we've also got the original plans for Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy in WWE. The reason Brock Lesnar declined to work with Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 39 has also been revealed. Bryan Danielson's in-ring return date may have possibly been revealed too. Bandido is nearing an in-ring return for AEW, and Darby Allin reveals he's pretty banged up ahead of AEW All Out this weekend. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about CM Punk and Jack Perry, as we've got details about possibly what's going on, the latest when it comes to some eyewitness accounts of what happened at All In at Wembley Stadium in London. Now, let's start off with Jack Perry's version of events. Dave Meltzer is writing in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that he has, or at least someone's version of what Jack Perry has told them happened between CM Punk and himself at All In last weekend. Now, if you're not familiar, after Jack Perry's FTW Championship defeat against Hook on the 0 Hour pre-show, he went back to the gorilla position. CM Punk was there. Of course, he was waiting to compete in the opening match of the All In pay-per-view proper. There was a confrontation between the two. It turned physical, and depending on who you talk to and who you ask, it depends on who actually initiated it. Since then, both have been suspended pending an investigation that is currently ongoing. But Dave Meltzer writes in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that the version of the All In incident that Jack Perry has told people is that after his match for the FTW Championship against Hook, CM Punk came up to him with a lot of people around and said, quote, "Do we have a problem?" Perry said, "No." Perry then said to Punk that he had said stuff that got online about him, and that line using the term Crimea River. Punk then said words to the effect of, "You know, I could F you up at any time, right?" He then pie-faced Perry and tried to put a guillotine on him, and also threw some punches while Perry grabbed Punk's arm to try and keep him from locking in the move. Samoa Joe, of course CM Punk's opponent for the Real World Championship at All In, came in and quickly broke it up. That's what Dave Meltzer is writing in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, is Jack Perry's version of events. But there's kind of a different version of events here from an eyewitness who reportedly is not a wrestler. Dave Meltzer writes in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that according to an eyewitness who is not a wrestler, their version of the CM Punk Jack Perry incident was that right after Perry came to the back, CM Punk went nose to nose with him and aggressively nose to nose with him and asked him if he had a problem. Perry said he was just looking to get heat as a heel. Punk shoved him hard, Perry got in his face, Punk sucker punched him and went for a choke. People immediately broke it up, and Tony Khan, the AEW president, was yelling at CM Punk to let him go. Once they were separated, Punk reportedly lunged in AEW president Tony Khan's direction, but a number of people got in his way while Punk was yelling, quote, "I quit." Monitors were knocked down during all of this. Samoa Joe was very upset and went to calm Punk down. So once again, what this independent witness, or someone certainly who isn't a wrestler, they're saying that Jack Perry got to the back, Punk shoved him, Perry got in his face, Punk then sucker punched him, which would imply that Punk threw the first punch in this instance, and then went for a choke. And also, I guess the kind of craziest part in all of this is the suggestion that Tony Khan was actively trying to split it up, yelling at CM Punk to let him go, and then CM Punk reportedly lunged in the direction of the AEW president and CEO himself whilst yelling, "I quit." Of course, we know that Punk indeed did not quit, because he did compete in the opening match at All In, but is subsequently suspended by AEW. Now, as far as Samoa Joe's involvement in this, we have heard from numerous different sources, numerous different outlets, numerous different reporters that Samoa Joe was certainly acting as a peacemaker whilst this incident was going on, and was quite critical in calming CM Punk down and getting their match in the ring at Wembley Stadium. Now, Samoa Joe's involvement in the backstage altercation involving CM Punk at AEW All In at Wembley Stadium in London has been revealed. Following the pre-show match between Jack Perry and Hook, and before the opening match of the main show between CM Punk and Samoa Joe, there was a backstage altercation between Perry and Punk, which has led to both of them being suspended. According to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Samoa Joe took a leadership role backstage to keep things on track. Meltzer writes, quote, "Another person said that many of the wrestlers think both Perry and Punk were at fault, and when the talent found out, they got more motivated to put on great matches. It kind of brought everyone together, and Samoa Joe was a real leader," was one comment that was made. He goes on to state that the announcers were told to stall while all of this was going on backstage. With Punk and Joe planned as the opening match, this came into question due to Punk's situation. So, after asking FTR and the Young Bucks who weren't ready, the decision was effectively made that the trios match with Jay White, Juice Robinson and Konosuke Takeshita versus Kenny Omega, Hangman Page and Kota Ibushi would open instead. However, it was Samoa Joe who was able to convince Punk to go out and have the opening match as had been planned initially. Meltzer writes, quotes, "The belief is that Joe convinced Punk to have their match and the show went in the order it was originally scheduled to go." Now, obviously, Tony Khan stated on the All Out Media call yesterday that he can't comment on the situation as it's currently under investigation. He did say he hopes to let fans know if CM Punk is going to be at AEW All Out before this Sunday, but as of right now, at the time of this recording, we still don't have any new information on that. Of course, if we do get it, we'll let you know. So what are your thoughts on the latest version of events when it comes to this backstage altercation between CM Punk and Jack Perry? Who do you think is to blame? Is it CM Punk? Is it Jack Perry? Is it Tony Khan? What are your thoughts also that CM Punk allegedly lunged at the AEW president whilst yelling, "I quit" as well? Let me know your thoughts about all of it in the comment section below. Now, speaking of All In, obviously it's being overshadowed by this backstage incident, but certainly it's AEW, one of their most successful shows of all time, certainly when it comes to attendance and live gate as well. We've also got the current estimated buy rate for AEW All In. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the current estimated buy rate for AEW All In is between 168,000 and 184,000 on pay-per-view. Depending on the final number, it could end up as the second highest bought show in AEW history. The record is currently held by AEW All Out 2021, which drew a reported 215,000 buys. AEW Revolution 2022 reportedly did 175,000 buys, which is the current second highest number for the company. AEW All In was the most attended AEW show ever and drew the highest paid attendance number ever, with 81,035 fans packing Wembley Stadium. The show did a gate of over $10 million. What are your thoughts on that pay-per-view buy rate number, and do you think it's going to become the second most bought show in AEW history? Let me know your thoughts about that as well. Now, the wrestling world, of course, is still mourning the loss of Bray Wyatt after Wyndham Rotunda tragically and unexpectedly passed away last week. But prior to Bray Wyatt rejoining WWE in October 2022, there had been plenty of speculation that the multi-time world champion could instead join All Elite Wrestling. Now, courtesy of new information revealed in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter from Dave Meltzer, we now know perhaps just how far negotiations had got between the two parties and why they ultimately fell through. Meltzer writes, quote, "At one point, TNT was told of a date for him to debut in AEW, but it fell through, believed to be money related. At the time, it was heavily believed that the September 29, 2021 episode of AEW Dynamite was Wyatt's expected AEW debut date." While Wyatt ultimately never debuted in AEW, many of his friends and former colleagues currently work for Tony Khan's company. This was evident in the wake of Wyatt's passing on August 24, as tributes poured in from all corners of the wrestling world, including at AEW's historic All In pay-per-view where the House of Black paid homage with their entrance, and Renee Paquette quoted Wyatt at the beginning of the pre-show. Now, speaking of Bray Wyatt as well, steering back to WWE here, the actual original plans with Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy have now possibly been revealed as well. Uncle Howdy was an integral part of Bray Wyatt's return to WWE after Extreme Rules in 2022, with plans possibly for a match at WrestleMania. Following his return to WWE, Wyatt would be plagued by Uncle Howdy, a character played by Wyatt's real-life brother, Bo Dallas. Details of the plans for Uncle Howdy and Wyatt were revealed in the current edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Dave Meltzer explaining that the plan was for Wyatt to build to a match with Howdy at WrestleMania, but that the plans were changed with Howdy, quote, "not being pushed at that level," and the character dropped. It was also revealed that Alexa Bliss was planned to return to her female monster gimmick alongside Wyatt, but plans changed when Bray became ill and Bliss later became pregnant. Wyatt's last match on WWE broadcast was at the Royal Rumble in the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match on January 28 against LA Knight, with his last untelevised match being at a house show on February 26 against the aforementioned LA Knight as well. Now, it was rumored prior to WrestleMania that he could be possibly facing off Bray Wyatt against Brock Lesnar, but ultimately Lesnar instead faced the Nigerian giant Amos, with rumors suggesting that Lesnar had rejected the opportunity to work with Wyatt on the grandest stage of them all. Despite seeming like they would eventually stand across the ring from one another at numerous points throughout both men's WWE careers, Bray Wyatt and Brock Lesnar never faced off one-on-one inside the squared circle. The first major tease of a potential match came at the Royal Rumble in 2016 when the Wyatt family collectively eliminated Lesnar from the match. However, this would not lead to a match at that year's WrestleMania 32, with Lesnar instead facing Dean Ambrose and the Wyatt family being involved in a segment with The Rock. The second major opportunity seemed to come at this year's WrestleMania 39, with Wyatt declaring his intentions to face the winner of the Bobby Lashley vs. Brock Lesnar match at Elimination Chamber. Lashley would go on to win that match via disqualification, and Lashley proceeded to go into an angle with Wyatt that was sadly cut short due to Wyatt's illness. Around the time, reports suggested that Lesnar was initially supposed to defeat Lashley, but turned down the match with Wyatt, leading to Lesnar facing off with Amos instead, and now Dave Meltzer has elaborated on these plans further in this week's edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Meltzer confirmed that it was Lesnar who asked to be out of the planned angle with Wyatt. However, the reasonings for the decision were strictly in relation to his character. Meltzer writes, quote, "Lesnar asked out of the match. It was nothing personal, just felt it was the wrong opponent for his character." So essentially, Brock Lesnar was saying that he didn't think that his character was the right person to be facing off against Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 39. Switching back to AEW, Bryan Danielson is out of action after suffering a broken arm against Kazuchika Okada in the main event of Forbidden Door, but we've now got details on when he could possibly make an in-ring return. Bryan Danielson is currently injured, having suffered a forearm fracture in June that would see him unable to compete at AEW All In. The forearm fracture was sustained at the New Japan and AEW crossover event Forbidden Door in his main event match against Kazuchika Okada on June 25th, 2023. AEW President Tony Khan recently announced AEW Wrestle Dream, a pay-per-view that would honor the life and legacy of Antonio Inoki. The show is set to take place on Sunday, October 1st, 2023 in Seattle, and some of the details of the availability of Danielson for the show have emerged. Writing in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer has revealed that it probably will need a photo finish, but Bryan Danielson was told he could return in October. He notes that Wrestle Dream being in Seattle would be the place if everything goes well. It would, of course, be subject to Danielson being cleared for an in-ring return, with Meltzer also stating what it would work if he could cross the finish line by those dates. So it might be a photo finish, but the aim right now is for Bryan Danielson to be back inside the ring for that Wrestle Dream show on October 1st. Do you think he's going to make it? Do you think with the show being in Seattle, he's going to make it back in the ring by that point? Let me know your thoughts. Bandido could be set to make an in-ring return very soon. Speaking of someone that's also been out of action with injury, Bandido absolutely falls into that category. Bandido recently underwent surgery for a wrist injury he picked up in June during his match with Konosuke Takeshita. As previously reported, Bandido underwent surgery in July 2023, and that surgery was a success. Dave Meltzer has provided a further update on Bandido in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, writing, quote, "Bandido has the cast off his wrist, so he should be back soon. He got the pin taken out 2 weeks ago, and September was originally when he was expected to return." Of course, Conan has previously called out Bandido and Rush for, quote, abusing their power in relation to Lucha Libre AAA. Bandido signed with AEW in November 2022, having made his debut in September of that year. He is a former Ring of Honor World Champion and a Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Champion as well previously in his career. Finally, of course, Darby Allin is going to be competing this weekend at AEW All Out, but he has revealed that he's not 100% going into his TNT Championship match this weekend. AEW star Darby Allin has provided an update on his health ahead of All Out, noting he's not at 100% ahead of his TNT Championship match. Darby is slated to challenge for Luchasaurus' TNT Championship at the September 3rd All Out pay-per-view. The AEW pillar was also in action on the August 27 All In London show, teaming with Sting to defeat Swerve Strickland and Christian Cage in a tag team coffin match. In an interview with CBS Chicago, Darby noted that he heard Hurt his back during the All-In match, pointing to the spot where he delivered a coffin drop to the metal casket as one of the moments he did some damage. He said, quote, "I'm not 100%. We had a show in London. I really messed my spine up. I'm trying to take it easy before Sunday. My lower back is really banged up. At the show in Wembley, I jumped off the top rope and landed on a metal coffin on my lower spine. Luchasaurus, he's a huge dude. I think a lot of it has to do with where I'm willing to go in that ring. A lot of people aren't willing to go where I'm willing to go mentally. I can take a big butt kicking when things are going. There are things that I'm capable of that I believe nobody else is." When asked about the possibility of him missing All Out, Darby stated that wouldn't happen, noting, quote, "No, I can still touch my toes still, so I'm good." So Darby's going to be there, but for CM Punk, looks like he probably isn't going to be. But there you go, guys. This is the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.